This is Tuesday, July 26th. There are 358 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2023. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
BANUHTEE go. Oh my God, I love LiveJournal and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive. Current music refuse 73. I love the color scheme. It's pink and purple.
Hello all, I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
And also joining us this week is Legion of Sand himself, Robert Warners.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so this is the 11th and final week of this season of the podcast, and I am too tired, so insert your own Spinal Tap joke here. We'll take your comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. You can also comment on the live chat on YouTube, and we will keep an eye there. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about what happened at Comic-Con 2022. And so first up, I would like to hear from Carrie, just your initial thoughts on the con.
Just my initial thoughts on the con. I think that attendance was definitely down. You could tell because there were a lot less lines everywhere. So it was great. If they never come back, it's fine by me. Yay. I mean, this was always going to be like a little bit of a weird year because I mean, look at the last 3 years. It was always going to be just a little bit odd, but I think having said that, like they were at like 80 to 90% normal, which is a tremendous feat in and of itself. And I just had a blast. I mean, there's some little nitpicky stuff and we'll get into all that, but I think it was a really good year. I think it's amazing that it happened at all. And I wish I was back there.
Do you have anything to add, Robert? I know you probably spent a lot of time on the exhibit floor and some offsites, so you may have seen something slightly different than us.
Yeah, no, I agree with Carrie's assessment. Other than Thursday, where I did feel like it was kind of busy on the exhibit floor, the rest of the days were definitely lighter. But I actually said this was probably the best Comic-Con I've ever attended. This is my first true one since 2017. And I just had a blast. Everything for the most part was pretty smooth. I really enjoyed it.
It was just like with less people there. Everything was easier to get into. Everything was chiller. Everybody got to like see their friends more. Like A+ to less people.
Which honestly is probably not ever going to happen again.
Nope, but it was great.
Yes. And so for me, I would have to agree. It was a very fun time. It felt, with the exception of the crowds, it basically felt like Comic-Con is normal with hiccups, I think is about the best way to describe it. There were obviously some issues here and there, but there was nothing that was like show destroying or just like a huge, like glaring problem for the con. Obviously, individually, there were probably some things that were like that for some things that, that happened here and there. But as a whole, the con, I think, ran really well and things basically just went off like they always do at Comic-Con. As far as the exhibit floor, I think the best thing you said is that it was so not crowded, and with the exception of maybe Thursday and then like late on Sunday. You posted a video of the show floor on Saturday when, like, I guess everybody was elsewhere.
I mean, it felt like there was like 6,500 people total at Comic-Con on Saturday at that point in time, and 6,000 people at Hall H. And then like 20 rest of us were on the floor, and it was magical. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it felt like.
Yeah, and we're seeing in the comments that a lot of people are like, got more signings this year. The Lumen experience was great for Severance. People got into Hall H. Like Carrie, you got into Hall H, then you never go to Hall H.
I went Sunday, so it wasn't like real hard to get into. But yeah, I haven't been to Hall H since like 2016, 2017, many years. Because that's just not my scene. Ballroom 20 is. But yeah, I mean, we lined up like an hour before the first panel and we had great seats and we had a chill time. So I would have never done that any other year.
Yeah. So programming, I mean, it felt like there was really no lack of programming this year. The schedule was packed full of stuff. Obviously, there was less studio stuff at in Hall H, but Sean at Parks and Cons pointed out on one of his wrap-up podcasts that I was listening to afterwards because, who had time during? I don't know how they do it.
No.
But he mentioned that on Saturday, with the exception of, WB starting and Marvel ending, almost everything was a streamer. And that's basically that's what Hollywood is now, is streaming. And it was all big stuff, Sandman and House of the Dragon from Game of Thrones and Star Trek. I mean, it's all huge things.
Yeah.
And those things are now the types of things that can fill Hall H.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think the programming was really lacking. There was still dozens upon dozens of comic panels, even with, the fact that there was no DC presence on the show floor. Offsites, everybody's talking about how awesome the offsites were. There may have been like slightly less offsites, but all of the ones we had were great for the most part. Parties. Yeah. Apparently parties were awesome. I mean, parties apparently are always awesome at Comic-Con, even though I don't go to very many of them. But you guys went to some parties. What do you think of the parties?
We went to some parties. I mean, I do feel like I just feel like everything was just a little bit less. It felt like there were a couple less parties. It felt like there were a couple less offsites. Again, the ones that were there, like it was easier to get into. So can't go that wrong with that.
Right. So let's talk about some of the best things. Now, we posted up on the blog today the top 5 things, which was the con itself, that we actually had one.
Yes.
Funko, for all the things that Funko did at the con. We had, what other things? You have to remind me because I'm in the middle of trying to remember.
The Dungeons and Dragons. I want to give a huge shout out to their line management girl, who was like hands down like the best line management I've ever seen at Comic-Con. Like, cheers to that woman. Oh God, what else did we even say this morning?
Funko.
Funko, small vendors.
Small vendors actually getting lines and attention because some of the big vendors were gone.
Yep.
And what else?
And crowds. I said crowds because I mean, again, everything was just great. Yeah. So what of those do we want to delve into a little bit more? You want to talk about Funko?
Yeah, let's talk about Funko. So I won Loungefly on preview night. And when I went there, I think I waited a total of maybe 15 minutes in line. And they moved me through. They moved everybody through really quickly. They had, I think it was like 4 or 5 people checking people out. So they were able to get a lot of people through quickly. I didn't really look too much at the other lines, but it looked like they had finished with something and they were relining people up for standby and telling people that, just go ahead and you can do this. So I think for all of them that the lines were moving pretty smoothly and they had a lot of room and the booths looked awesome. I mean, they really put some time and effort into building Funkoville. So on the show floor, as a replacement kind of the giant WB booth, I think it was a worthy successor.
Yeah.
As far as Fun Days was a lot of fun. It felt like a return to 2018 and 2017, which I felt like 2019 was a little lackluster compared to the others. But it just was a lot of fun with the whole blacklight theme, and they had multiple guests come out, celebrities. And it just felt like it was kind of a return. And during, I don't remember when they said it. Maybe it was during Fun Days, maybe at other times, maybe on their site or whatever. But they said they wanted to make people feel like it was that we're coming back, that it was worth the time they spent away, to feel like they were being welcomed back by Funko, and that Funko wanted to make it worthwhile for them to show up. And I felt that they did that. and then also the panel on Sunday, they brought 3 good guests out who were all extremely entertaining, and it was really fun to watch them and listen to them talk. And so I think Funko was just like, I mean, they as the biggest vendor who actually did something, I think that they actually did something and won the con as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and especially, I mean, we'll get into it here in a minute, but the other like normal big booths were all kind of a mess.
Right.
To put it kindly. So the fact that Funko like really took care of their fans, had really good line management, had a really good event, like I mean, yeah, as far as like the big booths, like Funko won for sure.
Right.
James, what was the panel swag
For
Funko?
For Funko, everyone got 2 pops. So everyone got a Freddy Funko with a Comic-Con t-shirt. And then you could get one of 5 different other pops, which was 2 versions of the Demogorgon with a Hall H sticker on it. I think it was a white and a blue one. And then very limited quantities were available of, since the 3 guests were Rosario Dawson, William Zabka, and Simu Liu, you could get a Shang-Chi, an Ahsoka, or a Johnny Lawrence. And those were much more limited, which I did not get. I got a Demogorgon, which I'm fine with. But it was, everyone got those, and you just had to go and run over to Redemption Room and pick them up before they went out by 7 p.m. And that was a long line, let me tell you.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I really wish I hadn't gone there early in the day to pick up the stuff from the Marvel panel and such the day before, because then I could have only had to walk that walk once. So that's one of my only complaints about the con. And I think that's a general complaint that everybody has, was it was way humid and a little warmer than we thought it was going to be.
Hot, yeah.
And the combination was like, anytime you had to walk any amount of distance outside, it was
miserable.
It was miserable. But, if that was the worst we had to deal with, all right, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Severance, because I think that's like one of the only things all 3 of us actually did. So James and I did it through press, but Robert, you actually did it, like you booked your time slot.
Yep.
And you went. How was it for you?
So I got Thursday at 11:30. Got there at about 11:10. Got in line, no issues. Between waiting outside and then waiting inside, I probably waited close to 45 minutes or so.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people who waited like 2.5 hours with the time slot. So 45 minutes is nothing.
I think the group, the 12 o'clock group behind us, like, I think that's when the wheels started coming off for the day, because they were definitely waiting a lot longer than I had. But that experience was amazing. I didn't get to do Westworld, so I don't have anything. I can't compare it to that, but this is definitely the best offsite that I've experienced at Comic-Con.
It was amazing, and honestly, like, it hurt me a little bit not to include it on our top 5 today, because this was like hands down my personal favorite thing at the convention this year. But I just think it had some issues with line management, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I mean, as a fan of the show, like, this was everything and beyond that I could have wanted from it. Like they said in the panel, 75% of the stuff there is like actual props from the show. They like took stuff like from their setup in New York and like brought it here. I mean, just the level of detail. Like I waited all freaking week for Sunday nights when like everybody who was going to do the offsite had done it, to be able to tweet like, okay, what did people do? Because it like blew my mind, like right after we did the offsite and we found out like there's a break room that some people go to, like just mind blowing. But then they gave out like some extra special swag to a couple people. Like I got a security room key, and then they gave out like those little cards to some folks that have like the weird numbered directions. There was like a bingo that somebody found, just amazing. But yeah, to me, the closest comparison I have to this was Westworld. Like to me, it was like that level of immersion.
Yeah, I had such a great time at that, just watching everything and experiencing it. And I mean, it was really cool walking into the boardroom at first, but it wasn't quite the same experience as the show, because obviously when the show starts, it starts differently than just walking in and talking to people. But the instant you walked into that hallway and it was bright white and it was pure white, it was like, wow, this is like walking into the show. And then from there
Yes.
on, it
Yep.
was just like, wow, this is insane.
Amazing. Yes. They went all out. Like it was everything I could have wanted and more.
And then when Ben Stiller did announce that it was 75% of the stuff and there was props, I was like thinking to myself, like, man, I really shouldn't have hit the keys that hard on the computer. I was like typing, I was like hitting buttons and scrolling that thing, trying like do something. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have hit it that hard.
I know. I keep hoping, like, I'm like, I think this might actually be production made. And as I collect props, I'm like, wow, this is definitely staying with me forever. So that's fun. Yeah, it was really good. I do just want to talk a little bit about the flip side of it, which was, again, the line management could have been better.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. They did reservations, and reservations are cool. We love when offsites do reservations, but then like you have to like stick to your reservations. They told somebody, one of our followers actually, that like they intended for people to wait an hour past the reservation time. And I'm like, hopefully that was just a very confused person, because that makes no sense to me. But some people waited 2.5 hours, even with a reservation. And then the thing that really, I think, knocked them off our top 5 is they had a standby line, but they were letting in like basically no one. I mean, I think less than like, I think probably not even 10 people a day made it in off that standby line.
Yeah.
And if, especially like after Thursday, if you know your standby line is not getting anybody in, like cut those people loose, let them go do something else with their convention. Don't have them still like sitting out there. So that is my one little quibble with Severance. But beyond that, like it was amazing.
And the whole, it tended to take an hour. I think maybe it was they wanted people to be able to experience the line and the videos and all that kind of stuff. So they intended for people to take a little bit of time to get through. I don't know if they really intended people
an hour seems like a long time.
Right. I think maybe it was, we're going to try and get everyone in within an hour.
Yeah, I can see that, but even then, like
even
I said,
then,
some people,
but the fact that that didn't happen and that people
Yes.
were waiting for so long, that
Yes.
was the problem. Which, if we are going to be talking about offsites and line management, we might as well mention the A+, 100%, AAA, whatever you want to call it, line management of the con. And that
did you go, James?
I did not have time.
Okay, Robert and I did. Robert, did you do standby?
Nope, I had a reservation.
Had a reservation.
And he was
Okay.
like, come back 10 minutes before your time. I'm like, 10 minutes? That's like, okay, sure. And sure enough, I did. And it was wonderful.
I mean, it was so funny because like when you got there, like it looked a little chaotic, but then like once you saw what they were doing, it was like, this is like Disney World level, like line management. They had limited space, but they had it down. And it's like, all right, you're going to come back at this exact time. We're going to direct you to here. They had a standby line. They let people in from their standby line. Like I heard all week, like standby was only like 30 minutes long. Like that's freaking amazing. So what I've been saying all week is that what Comic-Con needs is 2 different types of offsites. Like there's the Severance stuff, which is really limited, but freaking amazing and like very immersive. But then you also need basically the people leaders that can get a whole bunch of people through. And it's still a very cool thing, but it's not going to take 8 hours of your day to do it. And honestly, I feel like Dungeons and Dragons was kind of the only one of that sort. I mean, other ones that you would think would be more people leaders, like I would have thought like Abbott would have been like a quick like walkthrough. I know people who waited 2 or 3 hours for that. I'm like, that's dumb. Abbott, no matter how cool it was probably not worth 3 hours of your time. 30 minutes to go get a free drink, a cool, quick little show, talk to some actors. Like that's amazing. So for me, I'm like that. A+ way to do Comic-Con. Like they got so many people through. The one complaint again is I know everybody wanted swag, but you got a free drink, including alcohol if you wanted it. Like, come on. So I just want to say, like, I think they did an amazing job. And truly, that woman deserves a raise and a vacation and a drink.
Yep. So other things that we think that were done really well or that we just want to mention were yesterday's and their heart pins, which were not only were they cool exclusives and they had the different colors, but they all looked so good. And hopefully that if you wanted some of those, you got at least one. The Monkey Minion print with Comic-Con in the reflection of the spaceman, that was awesome.
So cool. Yes.
The factory entertainment Jaws with the Hall H sign in its stomach. I got to see that at our party, and I thought that was hilarious.
I think yeah.
And Todd Land, who produced that one Bob's Burgers shirt with them returning to con and going up the escalators. I saw multiple people wearing that at the con, and I was like, that's an awesome shirt.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Every time a vendor asks me, like, what do people want for Comic-Con? I'm always like, look, the only thing that we all have in common is the convention itself. So, like, if you're going to do an exclusive that you want everybody to buy, make it about the con. And it felt like more people did that this year, which is fantastic for me because that's like 100% my jam. And obviously, many of you liked it as well. So that makes me happy.
So we have a few comments, which is people, of course, raving about the Dungeons and Dragons and the offside and the line and all of that. Someone asked, JG asked, what happened to the Dungeons and Dragons Boss Logic posters that were supposed to be given out? Now, apparently that was canceled by the producer. And I think what ended up happening, I heard someone mention that as part of those secret groups that got pulled aside to go into the small room, I think they were given the posters on the way out.
Okay.
So that's where those Boss Logic posters ended up. And then Maximum Herald says the top three things were for them were talking to Trammell Tillman of Severance, talking to Adam Scott of Severance, and number one, saying hi to Carrie Dixon in real life.
That is very sweet, but I did not belong on that list. I would for sure put Adam Scott and Trammell Tillman above me, but thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, other things, you went to a meetup on the pirate ship.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this. Okay. So, I mean, I think some people kind of knew that I was halfway organizing it, but yeah, so I co-organized the Our Flag Means Death fan meetup on the Voodoo Ranger pirate ship on Friday. They took amazing care of us. We got like 60 free beers. So many people were in cosplay. Everybody just had an amazing time. I mean, come on. It was a fan meetup on a pirate ship, like at Comic-Con. Like, it was a good time. So, and I don't, usually my schedule is way too busy for something like that. Like, usually I'm in Barm 20 all day or whatever. This year, because everything was just a little bit lighter, I actually had time to do that. And for me, that was like a huge win. And yeah. It was just so fun to get to see all the fans. So,
Robert, you also got to do a couple of things that I don't think any of us got to do, except for maybe someone who's not here today. But you got to go to the Dragon Ball concert and you got to go to the Rings of Power party. Let us know how those went and if you enjoyed them.
Yeah, so the Dragon Ball concert was at the Rady Shell at Jacob Park, which is right behind the convention center. It's this big white structure. If you walked behind the convention center, you probably saw it. The venue is gorgeous. It's right there on the water. This grassy open area, a lot of seating. The sound quality was amazing. The show to me, I left Sunday morning, so that was my end of the convention experience, and that I couldn't have asked for a better way to end Comic-Con this year. It was great. They ended the show with fireworks. And I hope they continue to utilizing that venue going forward because it's awesome.
Us too. It is awesome. How was the Lord of the Rings party?
So I got to the Lord of the Rings party maybe like an hour after it started. So I don't know what the line situation was, but like I just walked up, they let me in. There was no wait. I ran into Kim and Ben while I was there, and
Nice.
there was a couple different bars, so there was really no waiting for drinks, which was nice. But the entire inside of the venue, it was like littered with trees and just a lot of greenery in there. So it was a really cool vibe. And then they brought out like the entire cast, which it felt like 30 different actors and actresses are
Wow.
are in this show, and they just all streamed out one by one. They gave away some really cool swag. So that was actually a really good party. I did enjoy that one too.
Good. All right, James.
So for me, the best stuff was Marvel. I mean, I was feeling kind of run down by Saturday with all the running around, and I know for you people from like Texas and whatnot, the heat is nothing. But come on, I live in Southern California. The heat was something. But Marvel manages to just reinvigorate me for the cool things that you can see at Comic-Con because of just how big and cool of a show they put on. I mean, the day started with Black Adam and all that kind of stuff, which was really great. It just felt like it was kind of small compared to what Marvel did because they only had the two things. And Marvel just did what they did like in 2019 and just brought out multiple things. But the first half was like, hey, here's this cool thing, and hey, here's this cool thing, and this is awesome with the She-Hulk and whatnot and all that kind of coming out. But then when it got to Guardians and they showed the sizzle reel and the cast came out and they were all like, they were bawling too, just like the rest of the crowd. And then the Wakanda Forever stuff, and you could tell just how much it meant for them to be on that stage honoring Chadwick, and just the last half hour was just amazing. And it just reinvigorated me for Comic-Con because you can get worn down with just all you have to do in order just to get one thing done at Comic-Con, and the lines you have to wait in, and the walking from place to place, and the miles you put in, and the everything that you have to deal with. And just seeing something like that can just make you feel just really, really happy that you were there. And that's what Marvel did for me. So thank you to Marvel for basically being the best thing I saw at Comic-Con. And also, I would just be honorable mention to the excellent timing of the Bayfront Union and when they struck, and
Super smart.
being able to get a contract done in essentially a day, because they struck and then they were done by like Thursday morning and they had a contract. So congratulations to them for getting that done. And not only getting that done, but getting it done to where it didn't affect us. So it was like a win-win because they got their contract and the Bay people staying at the Bayfront didn't have, a massive disruption to their convention.
Yes.
I was told by someone who was working for one of the other sites covering the con that their bosses told them that they would not be able to go to the Bayfront for their press events that they have there, because a lot of the Bayfront rooms are used for the press events by panels after the panels, and they said that they wouldn't be able to cross the Union line. So a lot of press sites may not have even been able to cover things because they wouldn't cross the line. So there's a lot of things that would have affected.
Absolutely.
That's me. So go ahead.
So I want to talk about two more things. Sean and Aaron are the ones on our team who went to the Walking Dead fan celebration. Unfortunately, we all had other things that night, but they both said it was just freaking amazing. And it was just a huge love letter to all of the fans who went. Our friends at Campfire and at AMC are the ones who put it together. Everything that I've seen and heard it was just so much fun. Cash showed up, everybody went home with so much stuff. It just sounded like the right way to send The Walking Dead off with their fans. I mean, it just seemed like a great event. And then I think we also have to mention our own party, which hopefully it was a highlight for other people, but I know it was for us. Someone on Monday morning told me it was the most wholesome party at Comic-Con. And I'm like, I will take that badge with honor. if you didn't go, you got free drinks, you got the color, you got to make a mule out of pipe cleaners. We did raffles. Pretty much everybody had a seat. So yeah, that's how we wind down from Comic-Con. It was just so much fun, like getting to see all of you, and especially for me, there at the end, we had everybody say "Go Shawarma" with us. I'm like, we know that's like the dumbest sign off to this show. We are aware. Yes, that's the point. That's why we like it. And that's why we're never changing it. But to have everybody do that with us felt, I don't know, really special to me. So just thank you to everybody who came, and we had a lot of fun.
Yes. So I wanted to answer some questions I saw as it was scrolling through here. You guys are all chatting a lot. So if you don't get a question answered that you want answered, go ahead and ask it again in a little bit. Mikey asked, do we think Funko will continue to do panels in Hall H? I would say that's almost guaranteed. They had such a good response. They almost filled the room. I think that you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to do that, especially if they can pull in some celebrities like they did to really make it enticing. Sir Lister Smeg asked, do you think the vendors that didn't show will be back next year? Some. I don't think all of them will. I think some of them.
Yeah.
I heard that, some of them were concerned about coming back still, and therefore they didn't want to. And if you read that Variety article that came out just before the convention, David Glanzer said some of the exhibitors who were told, that not showing up would be problems for coming back, they basically said they don't care. So some vendors
did, but I would also like to preface that in saying that I talked to at least one vendor who took over one of WB's spots, and I specifically asked, did they promise you this space moving forward? And I was told no, they did not. So
some vendors will be back, others will not, and we'll just have to wait and see what 2023 brings. Mikey also mentioned that he loved how IMDb gave hairstyling products and a nose hair trimmer as giveaways, which random weird stuff like that is just one of the things that makes Comic-Con awesome.
Yep, I got a nose trimmer. I know Robert got Sasquatch soap, gas lamp. Yep. We all came up with some real fun stuff from Comic-Con.
Yeah, I got a bottle of hot sauce from FX. I was like, well, I'm glad I'm checking my bag because I can't carry this on.
Yeah, I've got one of those too. That's funny.
So the other one is AV Pokemon asked, what was up with no side screens by anyone in Hall H except Lord of the Rings? And I will tell you exactly why there was none. Because it costs almost $1 million just to turn those things on.
Yep.
So if you want to use them, you got to fork over the cash, and no one else wanted to fork over the cash. So that's the only reason.
Yeah.
And then now we're going to get into the not so good side of it now. And I wanted to kick it off with something that someone asked earlier while we were talking about how awesome Hall H was. And that was how bad Hall H was, which was line management, not only for the Saturday line for the NDL, the next day line, and how it had all kinds of issues and problems, but also how ADA was treated, which we saw some of the tweets, and apparently it sounded, honestly, we've heard complaints about the ADA line for years, and I think it was just worse than usual, which I'm not sure how they could manage that. I hope someone went to Talkback and made sure a point of talking about that. And you're just going to have to keep at it, because until they know, continuously how much of a problem that is. Like the ADA line does not have tents like the rest of everyone else does.
Yeah.
Until they,
which makes no sense whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
None.
And so just, there's nothing that we can do. It has to take a group effort to fix the things on those kind of things like the ADA line. And I see people talking about like lotteries for Hall H and whatever else. And I don't think any of that is ever going to happen. I think they're just going to continue trying to find ways to lessen the amount of people waiting in line, because that's really their goal, is to try and manage what's going on and how many people are waiting in line and waiting overnight and all the other things that involves. And it's bad, but what can we do?
It is bad. There were some other issues too with the Hall H line. I see some folks chatting about it. Like, no, I think it was on Thursday. No, it must have been Wednesday night. They didn't pull the flag up, and they're supposed to pull the flag up and then plant it back down at like 5 or 6 a.m. So the Friday line kind of started like Wednesday night at like 9 p.m. or something, which is not what's supposed to happen. Yeah. So it was just, there was a lot of issues in general with line management out there. And I do think that a lot of it has to do with, it's been 3 years. Like we've lost, it's not all the same people. Like you've got new people in who don't necessarily know what they're doing. But it's still, in the end, basically it's Comic-Con's job to make sure that all that's communicated well to their security people.
Yeah, I think the issue is that there are rules in place. There are places to line up. There are times to line up and all of that. It's just there is not a sufficient amount of workers to enforce those rules. And or some of those rules just aren't strictly enforced for the people that are there. So yes, more people and better enforcement will make that all run smoother. But
Yes.
I think that they really need to consider and try and figure out a way to get the ADA under the shade.
Oh, for
at least
sure.
Some of it. I mean,
For
obviously, just like for the Hall H line, you can't fit everyone under the tents, but you need
No,
to
but I mean, they could still, I mean, look, if we can dedicate like a tent to the everything else line, then quite frankly, we could, dedicate a tent or half of a tent to ADA. Like it's not that big of a deal, or it shouldn't be.
Right. And part of the issue, of course, is that the tents are on the grass, which makes them easier to hammer stakes into the ground and keep them down, where over on the cement, you don't really have a place to hammer anything in. So it may be more difficult to set up tents that won't blow away. They do need to try and see if there's something they can figure out for that.
Yes, they do. They do. Okay, hold on. Michael Eagle said, I want to talk back. CCI was grilled about Hall H and ADA. CCI rep said lottery for panel is unlikely because that causes clearing room, which defeats the purpose to have as many panels as possible. Yeah, so I do want to talk about this. We've weirdly seen a lot of people saying like, make the panels a lottery. And like, I don't think you guys understand how terrible that would be. Because the reason they have so many panels at Comic-Con is literally because they don't clear room. So like it only takes 15 minutes or so, or 30 minutes, to load in a couple people. Think of how long it takes in the mornings to load in Hall H. If you cleared that room and then put everything in, you would be having like an hour and a half between panels. It would just be a disaster. You have way less stuff in general. And
yeah, and
I don't know. We're all anti lottery.
So
panels,
here's the thing. Go look at D23 schedule when they finally post the full schedule. They have 2 panels a day in their 7,000 seat room, which is comparable to Comic-Con's Hall H. 2 panels a day, and that's it. Because they have to load the room, run the presentation, and then clear the room and reset it for the next presentation, and then load the room again. And that's all they can do. They might be able to get a 3rd panel in, but for the room that size, they just can't get this. What did we get on Saturday? We got like 7 panels, 6 panels, something like that. So you can't do that if you have to clear the room. So obviously you could run a lottery the way that we do the lineup now and have it be for the first panel of the day. And then from then on, it's a, first come, first serve. But how do you run that? There's just so many things
weird logistical things. I don't think it would ever work. I don't ever want it to work. So yeah, like we are the wrong people to be putting that idea to. Michael also said Leonard Englishman mentioned yesterday that he was told volunteer staff was 500 people short, which would also affect line management. And for sure, I was fairly certain the volunteers were down, if only because of how long volunteers stayed open. So, I mean, that all makes sense. And that makes total sense to me as well with how attendance was also down. All right, let's talk about some other things that we did not like. That sucked. No carpet. I saw a bunch of people replying to our post today being like, I didn't notice the no carpet. And I'm like, to you, good for you. For the rest of us, it was terrible. Yeah, I mean, I know that it's hard. I know that Comic-Con International is just not in a great financial place because they have not had money coming in for, 3 years. But with as much as they cut, I really wish we'd had carpet. But hopefully next year. One place where I definitely feel they could have splurged for the extra like 15 cents is on our wristbands.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, let us like have the option, quite frankly, to like pay $1 for a cloth wristband. Because those things by day 5, or for some of us day 6, were just not real pretty. And as everyone kept saying, like, but they're waterproof. Well, they are. But did you see them after you took a shower?
Yeah. And for the no carpet thing, we're more people are commenting about how they didn't notice it, or they might not have noticed it as much as they thought they were going in. And so it really did depend on, one, how much walking you did.
Yeah.
But also, I think more importantly, how much standing you did in the exhibit floor.
Yeah.
Because standing on cement is painful. And I learned that standing around at Celebration, and my feet hurt more at Celebration than at Comic-Con, honestly. And I spent less time walking around at Celebration, but I stood a lot in one place, and that was bad. So I think standing around is where it really gets bad. And just in general, it's just hard on your feet. I mean, it just is. So we also wanted to talk about, I don't see it on our list, but we talked about it on the post, and that was the panels that were virtual that were not announced as virtual. And that
I have it on the list.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So we had like 1 or 2 panels listed as virtual on the entire schedule.
Yeah.
But multiple ended up being virtual or just showing like episodes of the show.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, it's all down to an expectation thing. Abbott Elementary was announced as being virtual from the get-go. Like, I would say 95% of the people, basically the people who could read, knew it was virtual. And if they went, like, it was just because they wanted to see the cast. Like, they didn't care that it wasn't in person. For the rookie and the rookie feds, I would say 95% of the room did not realize it was virtual. And like when Damian Holbrook from TV Guide came out and said it was going to be virtual, like there was like a gasp in that room of just betrayal. And it's because there are people there who had gotten up early specifically to see Nathan Fillion in person, or people who had come to that room specifically to see Nathan Fillion in person. And that's just not what happened. And I did check their Twitter afterwards, and I guess they did tweet the day before, like, we will be there virtually, but clearly nobody saw that. So there needed to be a better system, first of all, to announce that. It needed to have been announced earlier. And yeah, I mean, again, it's just all down to expectations. Like, if you know it's going to be virtual, it's one thing. If you put in the time and the energy to get into that room thinking it's going to be in person and then it's not, that's not good. There were other panels that also got canceled or had weird things, like we were talking about Bob's Burgers. I think they still had a panel, but I think they showed footage, but like nobody was there. Chucky, I know, canceled fairly late. There was another panel whose name I can't remember that also got canceled really late. Yeah, I mean, it was just weird. And it set a really bad tone too, because it was the first panel in Ballroom 20. And the fact that it was virtual had all of us for the whole rest of the day going, is the next one going to be virtual? Okay. Putting cards on the table. That means there are human beings here. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the other things which Headless Ned Stark just mentioned was the lottery.
Yeah.
And how that was basically from beginning to end not good at all. First off, when it launched, it was soft launch. They just made it live and then worked on it as it was live. And then the fixes were like, hey, this is how you get around the problems. and they still had problems, and it wasn't as useful as the previous version. And they added something late after, they sent an email to someone saying, we don't anticipate adding anything else. And then they added something else. So before we even got to the convention, the lottery was a mess. And then,
yeah, I mean, there are people who never even got to submit their submissions, quite frankly.
right. And we have mentioned this, I think, before the convention, and this is something that we will mention again, and I see people mentioning it in the chat, which is people shouldn't win more than one thing until everything is either gone or until everyone has something, so that everyone can experience an exclusive. And obviously, people would get really upset because they wanted like Funko and Mondo, or Funko and a signing, and if they ran out of things, people would be upset about it. But it would be a fairer version of the lottery.
We saw people who, I mean, it wasn't many, let me preface this with that, but we saw people who won 6, 7, 8 different things, and that's insane. Like nobody needs to win 8 lotteries. Okay.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's cool. Good for you. But nobody needs to win that many. I completely agree. Like, they need to make it to where you can win one thing. And I feel like that also forces people, assuming the system works, to put their points towards what they actually want, as opposed to just being like, well, I don't really want any of these, so I'll just submit for a couple things,
Right. And then when we got to the show, almost everyone except for, I mean, even though Funko was probably the best one using the lottery and how they ran it, even Funko had a little bit of an issue where we heard that people who won multiple Funkos could only go once.
They told at least one person that,
So it's like, and then, you had Jazzwares, who every single day was apparently letting standby line in during the exclusive times to buy the things that the people had the exclusive slots for. So like when I went there, they were sold out of one of the items. And it's like, but I have a lottery win for this time, and these 2 items are supposed to be available, and you're supposed to only, have the lottery wins for how many items you have. But they were letting people in for random things to just purchase from a standby line, even though, I mean, and one guy told me directly, I had an 8 on preview night, I think it was, for the whatever Squishmallow was that night. I had won that, and it was from 8 to 9 of preview night. And I went early at 7:30. I was like, hey, can I get in early? And he's like, yeah. So I was done. And as I was walking out, he's like, hey, by the way, at 8 o'clock, which remember was my actual time, he said, we're opening it up to everyone to buy it. And it's like, but what about all the people with the 8 to 9 o'clock exclusive? Are they going to be able to get in and get it mixed in with all these standby line people? How is that going to work? So basically, Jazzwares needs to get their act together and not schedule exclusive times for the end of the day.
And I mean, UCC had issues as well. Like starting, quite frankly, with preview night, where I mean, people with time slots got to the booth and they were like, "It's capped," and that just shouldn't happen. So we have a lot of people as well in the chat also talking about the Aussie signing that was lottery and saying that was severely overbooked. We did hear that.
Yep.
There was just a lot of issues all the way around. And I don't know if the solution is basically Comic-Con needs to take more ownership over it. Like, I think for Jazzwares, quite frankly, they should have gotten with them and said, like, okay, you need to have dedicated hours where standby people can come in, and the rest of the time it needs to be lottery people only, or things like that. It just all felt chaotic from start to finish.
Yes. And so that was another thing. And then one of the other things was Hasbro and their QR code for their 2 exclusives that were basically online only, where the link for the sale for those went up before the convention opened and was sold out before anyone could even get their hands on a QR code.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say on Saturday, Sunday, they did put some more up because somebody tweeted us about it. But yeah, I mean, that also shouldn't happen. Mattel sounded like it was a huge mess all week because the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. Were there tickets? Were there not tickets? Nobody. Are they giving tickets out over here? Nobody knows. And then Lego, obviously, everyone just expected good things from Lego, and you got a giant Bowser. Cool.
Right. Yes. Lego
Oh.
really, yeah. Lego and Hasbro really didn't do anything really great as they usually do. They were
the Hasbro selfie series thing, I still think that was really freaking cool. But yeah, as like Hasbro didn't bring much, and then the fact that it sold out like before the con started, that's a big disaster. It's not good.
Yep. Was there anything else? Just little things like
yes. I want to talk about Barm 20. Two weird little things in Barm 20. Number one, this is me being nitpicky, but I've seen other people complain about it as well. There was no water in Barm 20. Normally they have water stations. Yes, I know there are water bottle refill stations outside, like that you can go, but it's a pain to like go out and do it. And I'm sure they did it because of COVID, but I hope that eventually comes back. And then we also just wanted to talk about in the Orville panel, it was really weird and not good because they had Seth MacFarlane zoomed in, and then the rest of the cast was on the stage. And what they did is if you were further back in the room and watching it on the TV screens, they left Seth MacFarlane up the entire time. So you like didn't get to see the cast as they were talking. You just got to like awkwardly watch Seth MacFarlane like sitting there listening to the cast. It was just a very strange decision, and somebody just needed to be there to like switch the camera. But yeah, that could have been better.
So obviously lots of little things, a few big things going wrong, but overall, obviously it was a normal Comic-Con where a lot of great stuff happened. Let's see if there's is there really any other like bests or worse? I mean, or weirds or
sorry, go ahead, Gary.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, we obviously always get like a protest group outside of the convention center. There was a second one this year. I'm all for people protesting whatever they want to protest, but like I promise you, nobody at Comic-Con cares. People are just trying to get to their panels, get their exclusives. And it always causes trouble. There's always arguments back and forth, and security gets involved. So that was only my little thing.
Santiago Rico had just asked, does anyone know what happened on Saturday with the alarm thing, which was heard throughout the convention center, I think. Apparently that happened on preview night as well, which I don't think I was in the convention center when it happened. So I
heard it on preview night, but I saw nobody heading for the exit. So I was like, well, I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah. So apparently someone said that someone was smoking in a bathroom on preview night. So I'm assuming it was something similar on Saturday, but we don't know. I haven't heard anything. So it may have been something simple. It may have been something else, but nothing really happened. Someone just mentioning, Xavier just mentioned the best was seeing Prey premiere on the big screen. Apparently Prey was really good for the people who got to see it. And apparently the Hulu party, which was the Prey themed party, was apparently one of the best parties of the weekend, which I don't think any of us went to, right?
No, but I heard like they fed everybody. Yeah, they fed everybody. Like the cast took photos with everybody. Like apparently it was just fantastic. So that's awesome. And then I wanted to mention Straight to VHS said in the chat, Mattel was actually great. They secretly gave out tickets to the next morning when the crowds left, and you asked nicely. That part was well done and helped avoid mob crowds. I applaud Mattel for that move. So, I mean, again, it's a little chaotic that it was like, well, once these crowds leave, we'll just like surreptitiously slide you over a ticket. But that's cool. I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, it's like that one year that Funko was handing out tickets in the middle of an aisle to just random people walking by, nowhere near the booth. It's the kind of thing where if it's announced that, there are tickets, great. If they don't announce their tickets, like we heard people saying that Mattel employees were like arguing whether there were supposed to be tickets or not amongst themselves.
Yes.
And it's like, if the booth themselves don't know, then what good is that going to do attendees who are getting answers? We always say, ask at least two different people. people asking the different employees would get two different answers, and what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
just
Mattel,
that's stuff that should have been figured out beforehand. And I would say that Mattel should be part of the lottery, but considering how much of a mess the lottery was with just about everybody else, maybe not.
So-
Headless Ned Stark said top moments were meeting Bruce Campbell. I think that was a highlight for a lot of folks. Preview night, Voodoo Ranger boat, and the blog after party. So,
well, thank you. That's cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments. It was a small moment, James. I don't know if you remember this, but Wednesday night we were hanging outside the Walking Dead thing a little bit, and then someone came up to you and it was like, you have a great podcast voice. And I found that to be hysterical.
Was it the guy who's like, I recognize your voice?
Yes.
And he's like, he was like, I was walking by and I heard you talking, and I wanted to come over because I recognize your voice and I'm trying to remember who you are. And it took him a few seconds, but he remembered my name. And one, thank you for actually like remembering my name just based on my voice. And two, it lets me know just how loud I am, because it was obviously really loud out there, and he was at least 20 feet away and he still heard me and recognized my voice. So it is, thank you for knowing that how loud I am. But no, that was awesome. I mean, little things like that, hanging out at Comic-Con. I mean, and we saw Kim right around that time too. It's like, just being able to run into people. There are some people where I would run into them like every year at Comic-Con and then not see them for 2 or 3 years, and then run into them again. I'm like, hey, still going to Comic-Con. This is awesome. Meeting you again after so many years. It's just those kinds of things are so much fun.
They are, and it's one of those things that's like impossible to explain to anybody who doesn't go. But those of us who have been, and especially those of us who've been for multiple years, like absolutely know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, we all have the people who it's like, hey, I sat in a line with you like 5 years ago. Yeah.
And someone mentioned our water glass patch of grass, which we do now have done a few times, where we basically just stand on a patch of grass and hand out bottles of water in a cup.
And we had 2 more boxes of tumblers show up today. So we maybe upgraded cups of water again next year.
Yeah, you're not going to get some dinky little plastic cup that costs like 2 cents. You're going to get, a really nice tumbler. So be paying attention kind of early on, usually Sunday morning, to right outside the Omni, if we get the Omni again, because that's the nice little patch of grass we picked, because it's right near the hotel.
It's near the hotel.
We're just giving you all the clues. If you want a blog tumbler, you just got to get up early on Sunday.
Okay. Just hanging said, talk about the merch. Yes, we need to talk about the merch because that was a disaster. So yeah, the merch, Comic-Con's merch was just bad. I mean, the lines on Wednesday and Thursday were like 3 hours. They didn't have everything in, and then apparently even the stuff they did have in, I don't know if you got the fun little shimmery designs, but apparently they come off as soon as you wash them. We've seen at least 2 people now, a hoodie and a shirt, that have had that. So if you bought Comic-Con merch, maybe don't wash it. Not really sure how that's gonna work out,
right?
But
dry cleaning,
I guess you can try that, but yeah, just not good.
Yeah. So hello,
Just
straight to
not
VHS. He says he's the one who stopped me, and we chatted for a minute coming down the stairs. I think we were heading to Lolita's at that time. But also another big complaint about the merch. I walked by the merch room twice on Sunday, going my 2 trips out to the Hyatt, and both times the line was just as long as it was.
Yeah.
And it filled like over half the room. I mean, it was a long line all the time. Frame it, don't wear it, according to Eleanor Grace. For the shirt.
There you go. For the shirt. About that may be the answer. Yeah, it's just not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay. Well, I want to do something now. I found one of our Titanic Heart of the Ocean pens that were hugely popular, even though I think I only printed about 25 of these. We got asked all weekend about this. So I want to give one of these away. So how do we want to do this, kids? What do we want to do? First person to comment with something, first person to email something. What do we want to do?
I don't know. Something super easy. Like
They have to send in a video of them saying that exact phrase.
Or how about a video of them singing the Titanic song?
like that one.
Okay, in fact, that's what we're gonna do. All right, if you want this, you have to take a video of yourself singing a line from the Titanic theme song, the Celine Dion song. You know it, and tweet it to us. So the first person who does that is gonna win this pen. So
My heart will go on, right?
and I keep saying yes. I keep saying pen. It's button, but yes. All right.
There you go. So we'll be giving it away on Twitter. So, but it's only for you who are watching this live.
Yes.
So
only for you who are watching
this
live.
later, we don't have any more pins. That was the only one, and it was for people watching it live, which there are quite a few of you watching live, actually. So get on it if you want it.
Yeah. I'm watching our ads. And in
It'll
our
take a few
ads,
seconds.
Jennifer Seger said Lego said at their panel that they need too much time to develop to have anything ready for the con. I mean, they had 3 years. So I don't buy that, but okay.
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep an eye on the chat or on the Twitter, but we can carry on.
Linda Schlossman says the highlight of their 2019 Comic-Con was also meeting James. And they still tell people that I met James and also still have the pen that he gave me. I think that was that in the Lego line, I think, when we were waiting to get the Lego exclusive, possibly, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong, but I think that's when it was. That was fun waiting in that Lego line. All right, so someone's going to win that. So final thoughts. Robert, do you have any final thoughts about the con or anything in general or whatever?
2018, 2019, I was ready to hang it up. I was over it. I have a new lease on life for Comic-Con. I cannot wait for next year.
It was so fun, Robert, hanging out with you.
I had a blast. That was a fun night. That was definitely a fun night. But I also had shawarma. I had shawarma this weekend.
Nice.
So
nice. On theme.
Yep.
Yeah, I also am. I think this. I can't remember. I'd have to actually go do the math again because of the 2 years off. It screwed up my math. But this is like number 27 or 28 for me. I've been going since '94, and I am tired. I am also turned 50 this year, and I'm going to be 51, and I am wearing down. I know it doesn't. 50 is like what, the new 40 or something like that, apparently, I guess. But I mean, I am getting tired. But this year was again just a blast, and I really love going to the con. I mean, obviously, if I've been going since '94, I think I might like it a little bit.
We have a winner.
We do.
We do. Harmony at SDCC, which is Yelena Belova. You have won. So I will be DMing you right after this, but you have won. So good job. Thank you for doing our silly little contest.
And I think just to get back on enjoying it, I think part of enjoying it was obviously the Marvel panel was what really got it, but it was just being there again after 3 years off. And I think the lack of crowds just made it more enjoyable to just relax a little bit more and not be quite so stressed about it. and
Yes.
be able to just like, I mean, I didn't even do some stuff in the middle of the day. I went like walking around and outside, or just went back to the hotel and didn't worry about like trying to stick to the schedule and like trying to get too much done in one day and feeling like I was just running myself ragged. And I think that's one of the things that also helped is you just need to shift your con if you're not having a good time at the con, because you really should be having a good time at this convention.
We said the same thing, and in fact, on Friday we went back to the hotel. We took a nap for an hour. Do you know? I've never taken a nap at Comic Con outside of a CBS panel in my life. Yeah, I mean, we kept saying the same thing. We were just like, we were getting up a little bit later. I mean, it for sure helped again that because the crowds were less, everything just felt a little bit less competitive. But we were so much more relaxed. Everything just felt way chiller. We got to hang out with more people. It was just a really, really great year. Like maybe there was less stuff, but it felt like what we did get to do, we had more fun at.
Right. Exactly. So for housekeeping for the end of year, attendee of the week is done until next year. We do still have a Patreon, and Carrie, you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. Yeah. This is a labor of love. We make no money. But if you would like to support us and the work that we do, the best way you can do that is to become one of our patrons, which I will actually tweet the link out after this, but it is also up on our site. And all of our patrons get a free monthly podcast between me and James, where we just talk a little bit about Comic-Con and what we're up to in the off season. We are mildly entertaining people, so that's kind of fun. And thank you so much to all of our patrons, and thank you so much to everybody who said hi this week. So many of you stopped me, which was just amazing. I love getting to meet our readers, so thank you to everybody who said hi.
Shout out to Chad, who was at our table at Fun Days. I said he had a blast, so it was great having you at our table. Everyone's like in the chat. If you want to go back and read the chat, if you're not, they're just talking about all the things that they loved and things that they got. I mean, it's just great reading all the things that they got to do and all the random stuff people get to, because everybody's con is different, and it's just great seeing all of that kind of stuff. So I wanted to close with, we won't be back next week because the con is over. But we do have some wrap-up stuff. Yes. So we'll be doing some posts on the blog, of course, and of course we'll always be on Twitter, and we do as Carrie mentioned, we do the Patreons monthly. But we will be back also for live coverage of returning and open registration badge sales. So we'll be doing live shows then. I would like to thank Carrie for being on every single week to make sure you actually get correct information instead of me making stuff up. And she's also just incredible for the amount of work that she does to get news onto the site. I'm sure most of you know that Carrie writes almost everything that goes on the site. She does so much of it, but also thank you to Andy and Aaron, who are the main writers besides Carrie, who basically keep her from going insane with the amount of work that they do. And they are amazing. So thank you both so much. Yeah. Kim, who contributes, of course, as Outside Comic-Con. She helps with finding information and writing as well. Robert, thank you for your contributions. I know that you, because of your job and whatnot, like all of us have jobs, but you can't contribute as much as you probably would like. But everything you do, you write some stuff, you do articles, and that's all great, and you cover things. Sean at Parks and Cons, he has his own complete thing, and he still makes time for us to help out, which is awesome. And the ublog team, all of those people I just mentioned, they all came on to the podcast as well and helped out here. So thank you for coming on to the podcast, and to the rest of the ublog team who you guys don't see on this podcast, or you may never even know about because they're behind the scenes, which is Sarah, Kara, Keisha, Lisa, Evik, and Ben, who research, and Sarah does graphic design and all of the other things that they do to help. That basically is how you get all of that information into however you get access it on the website, on Twitter, and all that. This could not be done without that team. And no, absolutely not. Thank you all so much for doing all of that work to get all of that out and helping everyone to have an awesome Comic-Con.
Yes.
Special thank you to Beth, who produces the show. She gets it into your ears for those of you who listen on the podcast, and she does the slides for all of you who watch it to see all the cool exclusives when we're going through the exclusives. And we had a bunch of special guests on this year. Every week we were able to, Carrie managed to find a bunch of people that would talk in interesting aspects of the show, something new and different that we didn't have in previous years. So thank you to all of them who took time out of their days to come on and talk. And of course, to everyone who is listening now, who has listened in the past, who watched, commented, asked questions. Thank you all. We do this for you, and we appreciate every one of you for taking the time to respond back and talk to us and let us know that we're doing a good job, if we're doing a good job, when we don't do a good job, and just the fact that you are like allowing us to come in and do all of this and keep us going. We really appreciate it.
It really does like invigorate us. Like I always feel so much more invigorated to do this after Comic-Con. Like as exhausting as it is, just hearing you guys say that like what we do helped you, like it's such a good feeling, because that it, like James said, that is exactly why we do it, is for you guys, because we want everybody to just have an amazing convention.
Yeah. And don't get us wrong. We do it for us too, because
well, yeah,
like Carrie said, the only reason she's on the blog at all is because she wanted to organize her schedule, and she realized that the only place that was really doing a lot of organizing was on the blog. And she's like, here, put this information in, and how can I help? And so, I mean, and it's just what we do. And we just love doing it. So for those of you who want the newsletter in newsletter form, of course, you can sign up on the website. Is there anything else that we should mention before we head off and go get some actual rest for a little while?
I do. Like I said, I just want to mention real quick, we will still have some wrap up stuff. We have a couple more reviews of offsites and parties coming. And then here in the next couple days, we will also do our annual Shruggy Awards, which is where you guys get to vote for your favorite and your most Shruggy moment of Comic-Con. So we will have that here in a couple days, and that's always fun. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, so Robert, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
At Legion of Sand on Twitter and Instagram. And if you check out my Twitter, I'm giving away a very special pin as we speak. So
yes. Robert's pen is actually better even than the Titanic button. So yes.
Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me now on Twitter at Carrie Dixon, where I will occasionally be logged in because Comic-Con's over. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm everywhere at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for all of the links and stuff for my wife and I, and our YouTube channel at Geekshot Photo. And thank you to Beth, our producer, and my wife for editing the show, as I mentioned, and all the little things that get this podcast done. And you can check out her photos coming soon. I think one of them is already up from Comic-Con. You can check her out on Instagram at TrekkieBeth. And she's going to be posting photos as she gets through them from all of the awesome panels that we saw at Comic-Con. So keep an eye out on that.
If we are on iTunes, if you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio, and the link is in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Again, thank you all for listening and being with us through the entire year. And everybody, go Shawarma. And done, man. Wow. Cool.